Yeah.
You have to go with a short list of things that at least you're up in mind.
All right, guys, we're giving everyone plenty of time to get here. Thank you for coming out, risking your lives in the snow and ice and all the crazy weather. I know that the drivers. Ain't nobody on the streets right now, so it's easy for us, right? So thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming out. I know it's taking time away from your other lives that you have. My dad always says this: you never know who you're going to meet, what one person that you meet or do to change your life because you're here. So thank you for hanging out with a bunch of crazy entrepreneurs. So we're small enough today that we can actually do introductions. So we'll do that, and then we'll introduce the speaker. We'll get right into it. And then before we do introduction, my wife wanted me to ask who is going to dinner with us across the street to Joey's so that she can get the head count. So then, so after we're done here, we can walk or drive. It's just right over there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10-ish. Okay. Okay. Perfect. All right. So I'm Ron Harris, serial entrepreneur, former IT guru. Read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Changed my life. I went and started investing in real estate investing, flipping houses and rentals and those kinds of stuff. Did all kinds of crazy stuff. But my ultimate purpose in life and passion is coaching and mentoring and helping people succeed in life as an entrepreneur or real estate investor. That's what gets me up in the afternoons. You know, those of you know I don't get up in the morning, so afternoons when I get up. So, but serial entrepreneur, got hands on all kinds of stuff, but mostly real estate investing and this kind of stuff. So, Jonathan, stand up, who you are and what you do.
I'm Jonathan Grissom. I'm currently in security at the American Melody building. I have a degree in management and human resources from the University of Colorado, and I was in the military for like 6 years. Currently, I'm in the process of building a startup called Media that promotes local music.
Okay.
Who you are, what you do.
Okay, I'm Jennifer Tippin. I currently work 2 part-time jobs at Bronson Firehouse, and I'm also trying to start my own business, like an actual business, not like multi-level marketing or network marketing or anything like that, just like a restaurant and an entertainment venue. I'll have probably bowling alleys and maybe a ball pit for adults and a retro cocktail bar, something like that. So maybe another 2 or 3 years down the road. I'm working on a business plan right now, so.
Sorry, go ahead.
My name is Ashley Brink, VA. I am currently a mobile massage therapist and acupuncturist, traveling out to wherever you need to have your relaxation. My business name is Attaining Tranquility More. I'm also developing a couples workshop called the Whiz-Bang Theory of Love, and exclusively based off of the relationship agreement that Sheldon and Amy have on a therapy show that we all love so much. Just to help couples to make a better plan for their relationship and where it's going, and talk about some subjects that are a little harder to talk about. So that's in the works, coming soon. So keep watching. Thank you.
My name is Sylvia. It's my first time. I work for a martial arts company, and I really want to start my own business. Not martial arts, but for something totally different.
You want to beat people up. Okay.
Yeah.
Who you are and what you do.
I'm late and just popped in, and I just moved here from North Carolina. Been for like a month, and my friends are calling me. They're like, "Man, we're outside running and stuff," and I'm like, I'm jealous, but I'm turning into a serial entrepreneur. Mainly right now I run a marketing company called Sinmark and a lawn care company. So my marketing company is my bigger dream company, and my practical company is a lawn care company called CV Lawn Care. So that keeps me busy during the days and for the most of the season. And I figured I kind of missed what we were supposed to be saying.
Who you are, what you do. Yeah.
And did I say my name? Brian.
Brian, where in North Carolina?
Raleigh. Yeah. You been there?
I lived in Fort Mill for a year.
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can
In
spit
Charlotte.
at Charlotte from there, you know, if you're a real good spitter.
All right. Yeah.
I'm Justin Fields. I do customer service. I do a lot of music recording and just trying to learn something new.
Nate Smellick, also want to learn something new, do body work, looking at maybe something mobile, smaller, dinged in, like scratches, something.
My name is Alex Hanna. I work at Innovative Healthcare. I'm looking at kind of getting into learning the business through like a wholesaling angle, and then graduate to buy and hold properties and use that as a free cash flow generator.
It's a real estate. You're looking at real estate, right?
Yeah.
Jasper Harrison. I have a day job, and my real job is real estate.
My name is Harlene Tom-Olivier. I work in retail right now, but me and my boyfriend recently started our own real estate business.
Hello, my name is Dorian, senior at UCL. I work in a bank right now, and I plan to be a serial entrepreneur.
My name is Chantal Corey. I work in my team, systems administrator, and I'm currently in what I call the percolating phase
Percolate.
of the fiber arts business.
Fiber optic
Fiber
business.
arts. I'm dying because I'm dying.
Hi, my name is Yemi Odina. Just like John, moved here from Jacksonville, Florida 6 months ago.
Oh.
I'm a business analyst during the day, but I have my own staffing agency, and I'm also doing wholesaling here and there, and looking to doing hospitality in the future.
I'm Becky Beats, and I buy pretty houses, and I like to live in the daytime.
My name is Sharon Clark. My wife and I work for the man, you may have heard of him. And we're looking to try to find something we can do together in the future as a business.
I'm Gina Tharp, and I'm a trainer for Department of Human Services.
Ben?
I'm Ben Day. I run Mindshare Bookkeeping, specialize in virtual bookkeeping, specifically for real estate activities, wholesales, flips, buy and holds. And then leverage that into my own private empire of buying and rental properties and eventually take over the world.
Thanks for the warning. And they never believe you when you say it.
My name is Jessica Richard. I'm a graduate student of agricultural economics from Stillwater. I'm originally from New York, and I would like to, as soon as possible after passing my prelim exams, start developing my consulting portfolio a lot more, work with farmers on a one-on-one type scenario, because that's not really fostered by the university extension system. So there's a gap there.
My name is Greg Sutton. My business has been programming computers since the 70s. I've been in and out of a bunch of startups since the 80s, and I'm currently in a startup. So I would say my business is now my profession at the same time, because I'm in everything, all out mode. On a startup called Baby Dial, which is a recorded phone number for couples that are not getting along. Like, I'm going to drop the baby off at your mom's house on Friday. Where are you? You're late. You're late. You said you'd be here. All that stuff. Our motto is proof is better than knowing.
Funny that service to my wife, is what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I wouldn't survive it. It's all good.
Rockford?
That's me.
I'm Rockford Steele. I am a lender for commercial residential real estate, and I'm also a realtor, and I'm also a real estate investor focused on buying holds. We do some flips here and there, and I never wholesale, but I wholesale.
I'm Sharon Ave, and we have some apartment stores and do a little real estate and make some money.
Mixed money.
I'm Russell Hunt, and like she said, we have some flooring stores here in Oklahoma City. We have 3 stores. We have Carpet Depot, Big Bob's Flooring Outlet, and Floor Pro Wholesale, which are our distribution arm. We also do real estate. We primarily do commercial real estate now, so we have properties for businesses, and then we do lending for residential for investors.
I'm Angelina Harris. I'm Ron's wife. I'm the manager of the First Grade Real Estate Group. I'm off 22 real estate agents during the day, and then I also coach and mentor real estate investors. My previous life, I was a human resource professional for 12 years, and
Just in time. Who you are and what you do.
I'm a Zach Hay. I'm starting a consulting company, focused on helping people become more efficient and increase their profit.
Okay, awesome. So,
We have
go
one
ahead.
more.
Oh, we do? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Victoria Simmons. I'm an insurance agent with Country Financial, specializing in auto, home, life, and commercial insurance.
So real quick, how did you guys find us? There's some new faces here. Is it Facebook, meetup? Meetup. Anyone from Facebook at all? Facebook?
You guys
Okay.
post on Facebook?
I post it everywhere. Eventbrite, Facebook, Google, Twitter,
You
blah,
post
blah,
so
blah,
many
blah.
places, I can't remember where I saw
I know someone said they saw it on Facebook, and I'm like, I didn't know they had Facebook.
Yeah.
I got software that does all this, but if some people say, "Man, I saw your post 18 times," sometimes it comes out too fast. So it is what it is.
What's it called on Facebook? Just the entrepreneur group?
OKC Entrepreneur Group has a Facebook page, and also there's several groups that are tied to that, like business. Gosh, I don't even know the names of them. Business Network. Just a whole bunch of different groups that are tied to it.
The one that's for real estate investors?
Yeah, there's one for real estate investors. Somehow people leave these groups, and so I get ownership of them, so I end up with all these stupid groups that I
It's
can't.
just called OK Entrepreneur on Facebook?
Okay, so
OKC Entrepreneur Group. That's the page.
Oh, okay.
But that will take you to the business. It's called Business Network Group. I think is what it's called. Business Network.
I think
The
I
business
saw
network.
it under, like, going to events on Facebook.
Yeah, under events.
And-
Yeah.
And that it just popped up through
Yeah.
events, coming through, being new here, not knowing where to go or what to do, and,
Right.
it told me come here.
And they're always Facebook. What's interesting is they're always changing stuff. It's like every month or two, there's something new that they've added. So trying to keep up with that is kind of crazy.
Oh my God, the last change is awesome. The last change is the best thing that's ever happened.
Which is
no
what?
more freebie ad shows you have to pay. That's it. So the viral video guys were mixed in with all of our paid ads, and all those freebie viral video guys are gone. It's only people who pay.
It's good,
Yes,
actually.
if you know how to market, it's
Yeah,
very good.
right.
If you're Logan Paul, not so good.
Well, I spent $10 and got about 1,000 views and about 50 responses when they clicked on stuff. So,
Yeah, that's excellent.
That's great.
yeah. Okay, so we'll just jump right into it here real quick. So, we're here to hear Sylvia talk about Failing Forward, a story of roaring success, failure, and roaring again. Very few entrepreneurs plan to fail, but the facts are that half of all small businesses exit 5 years. Interesting, about half all marriages in the U.S. don't survive either. There's a large chance that you will fail at something very important in your life. Just one?
Yeah, just one. Then you're done.
Although it's difficult to think about failure, recognizing it as possible and knowing how to handle it as important as planning for success. If you're recovering from failure, what Sylvia has learned can help you not just survive, but learn to expect double because of your trouble. I like that. Expect double because of your trouble. Having begun numerous small businesses of various kinds, Sylvia labels herself as a serial entrepreneur. Some of the businesses were roaring successes, and some didn't roar at all. And some sold, some were closed. She has experienced business success, mediocrity, and failure. Currently, she is a financial advisor, commercial real estate broker, and ordained minister. She wrote and published a book called Dream Interpretation Toolkit, a scriptural study on how to interpret your dreams. She has 2 grown children and 2 grandchildren. And if you guys are on Meetup, you'll see there's more information to the links of her stuff there. So guys, thank you. Please stand up. Welcome, Sylvia. All right.
Okay, well, hi. I'm originally from South Alabama. I'm here by way of Destin, Florida, and you can send sympathy cards anytime you get ready. I'll give you my address. But I was telling them earlier that my girlfriend from Florida keeps sending me pictures on the beach with my other friends on a daily basis, and I keep saying, "Shut, period, up, period," So I send her pictures out of my front door of the snow and the ice. But anyway, I'm glad to be here. I've never lived in a big city. Isn't that crazy? But I'm from South Alabama. If you hear something in my voice, I've tried. I did speech therapy. I couldn't get rid of it. So it's an Alabama accent. I speak more slowly than you all do. Yeah, a bunch of y'all are Okies. I know you are. but you talk faster than I do. I'm trying to hear y'all, and I'm like, God, I don't hear that fast as y'all talk. So that's kind of hard. I'm like, am I losing my hearing, or I just don't hear it at that rate of speed? But I'm so thrilled that you guys came tonight. I've learned a lot in life. I like to say that I'm older than I look. Now, it'll be up to y'all to decide that, but I'm a grandmother, as he said. I'm actually 67 years old. And so, I mean, that's just like knocking on the door of 70. That is scary, folks. I want to tell you. I mean, when I look at that, I'm like, dear Lord, are you kidding me? But those are the facts. And so by the time you get to be this age, you should have learned a few things, because you will have experienced a lot of things. So I'll get into it here. And my age, I have to wear glasses only to see. But so there was a baby boy. I want to begin this by giving you an example. A baby boy that was born into poverty in Kentucky in the 1800s. He was born into a one-room log cabin. His mother died when he was 9 of a disease called milk sickness, whatever that is. But the cows got something and she drank the milk, and apparently people were dying of it then. I mean, they've certainly overcome that at this point. So she died, and there he was. His father owned 816 acres of land. Not long after his mother died, the state put lawsuits and took back all but 200, so 616 acres, because of title disputes as to the legitimacy of who actually owned the land. They lost that. So very difficult life, as you can see. Lots of defeat, lots of failure. This young man then fell in love. He was just head over heels about this woman, and she died. He then had a nervous breakdown. He was self-educated. He studied by candlelight to read and learn law, probably because of what had happened in his family, of losing all their land, so much of their land, 3/4 of their land. So by candlelight, he studied this, became licensed to practice law. By this time, the family had given up on Kentucky and moved to Illinois when he met this woman and fell in love with her, and she died. At this point, he had a nervous breakdown, and he was bedridden for 6 months, depressed, suicidal. Can anybody relate to that? How difficult this life must have been for this young man in that time? So defeat and failure was a part of his upbringing. He then went on and he was elected to the state legislature in Illinois. He started 2 businesses that failed. He then lost 8 elections in his lifetime. 2 failed businesses. He also succeeded in some elections. So his life was just filled with failure, defeat, depression, and success. All of those things. Ultimately, in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president of the United States. But this was his life. And we know how he ended his life, right? More defeat. Really sad. Assassination. He did his best for the country to overcome prejudice and the bad cultural influence that was going on in that time. He dedicated his life for it, and he lost his life, probably for that. But he had success, because most likely he's in heaven. So he graduated to a better place. And for all eternity, this will be his story, that he did what he knew in his heart was the right thing to do for other people. So failure and success. So failure is a part of success. right? We use Abraham Lincoln. We can use a lot of people as examples. Failure is always a part of success. Now, we've heard this saying all of our lives. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So I want you all to take a second here. I'm going to need a couple of you. I'm an interactive speaker. I need you to help me, okay? Will y'all help me? Sure. Will you talk with me? Will you help me here? Good, okay. Okay, good. Thanks, Jennifer. All right, I'm going to count on you. Okay, so think about your own life for a second. What's your first biggest failure and your first biggest success so far? Take just a second. It's going to pop in your mind for some of you. Who's got something? Jennifer.
Well, I've had a few successes. You said our first, right?
Yeah.
I would have to say the first one I can really remember would probably be getting my Girl Scout Silver and Gold Award.
Oh, that was good. And you had to work real hard for that, right? Mm-hmm. What about a failure?
It's really personal. I don't want to talk about
Okay,
people
all
I
right.
don't know.
That's okay. I get it. Who's got a failure they'll share with me? Jess?
I'm going to tackle the failure first.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay.
My first serious boyfriend exposed me to a lot of things that really diverted me away from my faith and made me kind of question what the whole world was.
Yeah.
And I was with him for a long time, so I kind of considered those 4 years like a loss now. So that was a pretty big failure. That's the one that I mark in the book so people ask me now and that stuff. But on the success side, I had never left the country until 2 years ago, and I strapped myself on a plane to China and spent 2 weeks and met a bunch of dairy farmers up there and gave a research seminar, and it was pretty epic, so that's mine.
That is epic. Well, let's talk about something real quick. Since you were open enough to volunteer with the failure. So I heard you say that it was 4 years lost.
Yeah, well, I try not to look at it that way, but every day that I'm doing stuff now, I'm like, I could have been doing all this in that time that I was just with some guy that didn't have my best interest.
That didn't have your best. So what did you learn from that?
That whole sphere of influence theory is right. Like, it's so, I mean, like, it's night and day how much that, who you surround yourself with dictates where you're going.
So you had a failure, but you learned something really important, right? Yeah. Something you did not know before that. That, let's say that your parents had told you, and they probably did, you're spending time with this person and they're not good for you, right? But now you get it. So now you've got that message down inside and you can give it to other people, right? So it's anytime we learn anything in life, we can reach back. I mean, we may have learned it that long ago, but we can reach back and take somebody else by the hand and bring them up if they'll listen, right? So again, success and failure are often not about us. They're often about other people. Because we're not in this thing by ourselves. Feels like it. Our bank account's by ourselves. We have to get up and get ourselves to work. It's all up to us. But we need each other. We have to have other people. There's nobody to sell a house to otherwise, right? There's nobody to sell anything to. There's nobody to do anything with. We need each other. So that's good. Did anybody else have something they wanted to share that you're just itching to share before I move on? Yes.
I'm kind of like, my situation is a little bit related to hers, but the failure part of it.
Yes.
Except mine was a little longer. I was just telling her earlier that I was in a relationship with supposedly pastor's son. And out of that relationship, I had three children. And he lapsed when I least expected it. The good thing is I had a job. And I was able to pick up the pieces once a year. So I go back to school, get my degree, and verify. So
what did you learn from that? Never marry a PK, right? So, no, really, I'm just kidding. A preacher's kid. What did you say?
I said I learned to be self-reliant. Other than that, my your life, your education first before anyone else. I don't care how sweet that love is. Take your life, take whatever it is, whether it's trade school or education or whatever it is, seriously before you start talking about love.
And so,
mix love and money together.
do you give this message on a regular basis to your friends in your sphere of influence? So other people profit from our failures, right? Probably more than from our successes. And we probably profit more from our failures than we do from our successes too. Because who stops to learn anything when you're on the gravy train? You don't learn a thing, except you get real prideful. Anybody been there? Everything I do works, right? I'm the king of it all. Well, yeah, until till the caboose runs over the front of the train. Okay. So thank you guys for being open with me. So I hear you guys saying, some of you, that your faith and God and these things. And I just want to get this on the table. I don't want to offend anybody. Y'all, I'm a Christian and I'm a minister and I'm ordained and this is who I am and it's way down in here and I don't want to offend anybody, and so don't let me offend you. Just kind of like look at it, and if you don't agree with what I say, if you just look at it and go like, well, she is what she is, she believes what she believes, and don't let me offend you, okay? Is that all right? I got nothing else to give except who I am. So, okay, thank y'all. All right, now, so I want to tell you, so speaking of the Lord, because that's going to come out of my mouth very often in this. So when God closes a door, what do we say? That's right. I mean, the saying is He opens a window. Well, I don't like that very much because a window's smaller than a door, right? So I'd rather say that when God closes a door, He's going to open another door. And my life experience has been that when He closes a door, He opens a gate. I'm telling you, you step out of a bad situation and you're all crying and you're all snotty and the whole deal, right? And before you know it, you look up and you're like, it's better. This was, if I hadn't gotten fired, if I hadn't quit, if I hadn't failed, if I hadn't left, if I hadn't whatever, right? Right? You would not have learned what you learned. You would not have been in the better situation. So when a door closes, a better one opens. It's so important to learn that lesson and to get that down inside you deeply. That's how we fail forward. That we don't fail backward. We don't fall down and stay down. Life is full of failures. It's very important that when we fall down, we're like, okay, I fell down. Let me get up. Let me dust myself off and let's go back and let's do something else. Let's do it better. Let's don't do the same thing again the same way, but let's do it better. So, this double for your trouble part, this comes from the Bible. Now, I'm not here to give y'all a sermon, but this is what the Bible says. So, in the book of Isaiah, who was a prophet, if y'all have ever heard of Isaiah the prophet, and y'all have heard of the Bible, okay? And so Israel, which the Old Testament is about Israel, I mean, more or less, right? And so they kept sinning. I mean, the whole Old Testament is just a continuum of, the Lord saying to them, all right, you guys straighten up, fly right. And they're like, yes, sir, for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to go back and we're going to do the same thing again. And so they do it over and over. And so the Lord sends punishment. He sends drought. He sends locust. He sends whatever to destroy their crops and destroy their what. And so He kept warning them and warning them. And so Isaiah wrote, and it's cataloged in the book of Isaiah, that the Lord was going to take them captive, that they would be taken as slaves into Babylon. So about 80 years later, that's what happened. 80 years after he wrote that. That's exactly what happened. So Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar came in and tore down Jerusalem, tore it to pieces, stole all the stuff out of their temple, all the golden goblets and all the golden bowls and all the beautiful, expensive stuff that was in this temple, took it all and took them, either killed them if they wouldn't go, but if they would go, took them as slaves to another country, to Babylon. And there they were. So the generation grew old and died. Now it's like 70 years later, and you've all heard of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? Yeah. So now 70 years after that, so 150 years after Isaiah wrote this, that this is what would happen. Daniel, you've heard of Daniel. So Daniel, this is during the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego time. Daniel was like, it started to stir in him. He was like, seems like it's in these scriptures somewhere that they're going to go back to Jerusalem, that we're not here forever. And so he started pouring through these scriptures. And he found this. There would be a king appointed named Cyrus. It was written 150 years before. Cyrus, by name, was named in there. That the Israelites would be in there for 70 years as captives, as slaves. And then Cyrus, that God himself would raise up Cyrus over Babylon as king, who would set them free and send them back. Daniel found this, and he was like, and Cyrus is king. I mean, can you imagine? Now that's miraculous, right? That's a big deal. And so he got this to the king, who could not believe that there's his name 150 years before it had been written. And so he starts putting money together, hordes of money, and sends them back to Jerusalem. They rebuild it, they rebuild the walls, they rebuild the temple, they're free, they start over. Isaiah, back 150 years ago, had written this at the end of this when he said what would happen. He says, and the Lord says, I will give you double for your trouble, for having been there. I will give you double the lands and double the cattle and double the everything. And that's what happened. So they went back with money, they went back with the golden goblets and the golden bowls. Now what was true then is still true. Truth hasn't changed. And with this opening another door, the Lord will also give you double for your trouble. If you fail at something, and I don't care if it's your fault, I don't care if somebody cheated you out of the money, I don't care if you were so stupid that you just made stupid decisions, I don't care if you were lazy and you didn't work it well. When you get to that point that you fail and you fall on your face, the Lord will restore to you double for your trouble. It's happened to me numerous times. Every time. I have hit the bottom twice in my life. I mean the bottom. And twice the Lord has picked me up and put me in a much better place, in a position of doing far greater than ever in the past. And usually like that it just happened. When I come out of the depression, when I come out of the whole mess and I say, okay, I got to pick myself up. I got to go forward. Help me get this done. And bam, there it is. It's just amazing. So double for your trouble, and it's there for you too. Have any of you suffered a failure in business yet? Are you also young that you haven't been there yet? Or have you suffered a failure?
I know, like, for me, I'm 35, and most people think I'm younger than that.
Yes.
And I know I've tried, like, doing, like, different network marketing, multi-level marketing businesses, and
Right.
I've just decided after all these years, that's just not for me. I mean, you know,
Okay.
it works for some people,
Right.
but I felt so many times I'm just tired of it, and I'm like, it's just not for me. You know?
Right.
If I'm going to run my own business, have my own business, it's going to be not network marketing.
Yeah.
It's going to be something else.
So you failed at it, and so you learned that this is not what what you're to do. And so have you picked yourself back up yet? Are you? Okay. And so you're going forward now. Do you feel like a better door has opened yet?
I guess. I mean, I had this idea for this business. I mean, of course it's not going as fast as I'd like, but I mean, I'm the only one to blame for that, you know? I mean, I guess I could pick it up, but I mean, I'm not in too big of a hurry. I feel, you know, as long as I'm working on it a little bit as I go every week, I meet with my mentor, you know, I'm good with that. I'm not like, I'm kind of competitive, sort of, because I'm very type A, but I'm not so anal retentive. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I don't get this done by tonight, I'm a complete failure, you know? Like
Yeah, like I am, right.
You know? You know, I mean, by the time, like, at midnight, I'm like, I don't care, I'm going to bed.
Well, has anybody else? Yes.
Well, it's not a total failure, but it's indefinite relations. So I quit working 2 years ago, and right after, like 30 days, less than 30 days after, I had this immaculate plan I had enough money saved and all the good stuff. Right?
Yes, right.
I'm already making money while I'm still working, and my girlfriend at the time, her dad died, so we're living together.
Okay.
So it shambled everything.
Yes.
She's a doctor, so she was in school, and long story short, she wasn't making any money anymore. She was going through depression, and I remember when I got down to $9.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Has anybody else been down to $9? I've been down to $9.
It was all going. We had $9, and my business. I had to move. Within 30 days. I was planning to do everything here, and then it took me away to Raleigh, which is like an hour and a half away.
Right.
And this is also new to me. But the point I'm getting at is it could have been a failure, but it was more like a challenge because I just kept taking the blows and running with it. So
that was good.
That's the major point. That the failure, there's going to be a bunch of challenges that could be failures, but if you tell yourself it's a failure, in my opinion, it's going to be. But if not, just keep fighting. Like she said, that window's going to open, or no, the door.
That's right. Or the gate. Right. Anybody else got anything to share? Yeah.
When I was younger, I was very, business-minded, and I decided to open home daycare, and I knew from there I wanted to open up a daycare. And so the business, I had maybe like 1 or 2 kids in the beginning, but then it just grew so fast. And so sometimes you want something to go so fast and you're ready for the success, but sometimes you're not ready for it.
Okay.
And so I wasn't ready for it. It grew really fast. I had a lot of kids, and I couldn't keep staff on, and I didn't have enough knowledge into taxes and all the things you need to know as a business owner.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can think, okay, I know I have a gift, but on the side of business, you need to be knowledgeable of that.
Yes.
And so what I learned from that is that have your dream and go for it, but you also have to be educated on what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a great point. So you learned something very valuable from a failure, right? I mean, the Asians have a saying that I like to repeat, which is you never have more businesses than you have family to run. So, so failure is a part of success, right? So we want to expect it. Expect failure? Yeah, we have to, because it's a part of life. It's just failing is a part of the whole thing. For myself, I had the experience that I opened my first business when I was 30. And then I opened another business. I had a restaurant, and I sold it. And I opened another restaurant, and I sold it. And I started a line of children's clothing. And I did one thing, and then another, and everything worked until one day when it didn't work. And I'm going to tell y'all, the story as we go on. But I did not expect it. I asked earlier, who knows what it's like for it to just go to pride, right, when everything works. And that's what happens. You're a straight A student, I don't know if any of y'all were straight A students, but I certainly wasn't, but there is such a thing. But, and some of y'all might have been, but straight A student in school, and then suddenly they're in college and they go from a small pond to a bigger pond that's harder, and so now depression gets them because they've not had this experience. All they've known is success. Or we have a school beauty who's been so pretty and all this stuff, and then as she has children, then now all of a sudden she gains a bunch of weight and she can't lose it. And so there's depression. I mean, life is just full of this, that we have success, and bam, there's failure, there's defeat, and we're not prepared for it. And so when we're not prepared for it, we crumble inside because we don't have any strength to handle it. We don't have a grid for it. You know what I mean when I say a grid for it? We haven't built something yet to become strong enough inside, because that's what failure does. Versus the average student who makes A's in, let's say, English, and who makes D's in, let's say, history, who makes B's in, let's say, geography, who makes F's in PE, basket weaving, whatever. And so this person is going to know, well, I can apply myself because I like something. That's what happens when you're young and you make good grades and bad grades. You apply yourself because you like something, so you have success. You don't apply yourself because you don't like something, and you have failure. So you have more of an experience to know that when you really apply yourself, when you really study, when you really give it everything you have, you're increasing your chances for success, right? But you know how to build on the failure because you've experienced it versus somebody who's never had it. So we need to expect failure in our business and in our life. But, failure can be debilitating. I mean, if we're not expecting it, like the story I was telling you about my own life, when I had, some successes, then I had a failure. It was debilitating. Okay, so I know a guy that I went to high school with. So he's my age. And all these years later, he still struggles because a girl broke his heart when he was in high school. She cheated on him, lied to him, broke his heart in high school. So here he is today. He's not had a successful relationship because he can't commit his heart because he doesn't trust people. You have to expect failure or it will debilitate you. That I knew, I had a friend whose grandmother had a baby. The baby died when she was just a few days old. The grandmother could not handle the failure, the defeat, the pain, went insane and died in an asylum. I mean, her whole life just down the tubes. This is what happens when we don't expect ourselves to fail, when we set ourselves up for nothing but success. I remember with my son, when he was younger, he's also a serial entrepreneur. And so a serial entrepreneur, by the way, doesn't mean that, I eat cereal every day or sell it for a living. It means that, right, like a serial killer, right, in the granola. No, a serial entrepreneur is somebody who has either had a lot of success in business after business after business. Does anybody know anybody like that? I don't. Every serial entrepreneur I've known has had failure, success, success, failure, 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 success, success. This is why they're a serial entrepreneur, because everything doesn't work. So they pick themselves up and they go back and they try it some more. So we have to expect failure. we tend to view failure as a flaw in our character. And that's the way we view it with each other. When I grew up in that little town in South Alabama, there was a guy named Jake who owned a ladies' shoe store, and they were very expensive shoes. Y'all remember when we used to have like men's shoe stores and ladies? No, y'all aren't old enough. Anyway, never mind, okay? Forgot. Yeah, we used to have actual stores that you would go in and they didn't have anything but shoes, and it wasn't a big like DSW. It was, they would fit you. You would sit in a chair and they would put this thing on your foot and fit you with shoes, and they'd go to the back and get them. Try this one, try that one, and it was just a luxurious deal, you know, to get your shoes fitted and go through all that. But so where was I? I told Ron, I said, now I will rabbit trail, so somebody has to listen and tell me what my point was. So who remembers what I was talking about before I rabbit trailed on the shoes?
Your views don't, your failure, don't believe your failure is a fault in character.
Thank you. See, I told you somebody would listen. I usually start these off with, now I rabbit trail real bad and I forget where I was, so who's my designated listener? So I'm gonna count on you. I'll drive the car right off the street and then I'm like, I don't know where I was going.
That was spot on.
It's terrible. So there was a guy named Jake who owned these shoe stores, this shoe store, this really nice one. He lived in a beautiful home. He had lots of money. I mean, all of this stuff. And so the buzz went around town that he had gone bankrupt. It was unheard of that anybody would go bankrupt in that day, in that time, in that town. And so everybody just in a whisper was like, he went bankrupt. So years later, when I lost everything, I became Jake in my own mind. That's all I had to use it for. I mean, that's the only grid I had to hang it on. I saw it, I judged him because other people did, and that's all I knew. So I judged him as a failure. I judged him that he did this. He was a bad, shady character to go bankrupt and to not pay people what he owed them. Terrible man, shady character. So years later, there I am. And I'm like, I have become Jake. That's what I kept thinking. What am I going to do? I can't live with myself. I'm a terrible person. I never dreamed I could do such a thing and end up in such a place. So we have to expect failure. Then we don't go to those bad places in our hearts and in our mind, because everybody fails at something. Most people fail at lots of things. It's a human condition. You know, a quarterback, every pass he throws does not make a touchdown, right? I looked up Steven Adams. Y'all know who Steven Adams is? Oklahoma City Thunder, right? I looked up his average for this year, this season. And over 1/3 of the shots that he attempts, he misses. Over 1/3. So if we compare our own lives to that, you know, he could get pretty depressed if he were to look at it that way. But the deal is that he's throwing the proverbial gum against the wall constantly. And so it's not as depressing to make that many mistakes unless he compares himself to some that do better than him. Then his failure becomes bigger in his own eyes. It's like, I've had this saying for a long time that, you know, as a woman, you can get all dressed up and go to this big party where you've been invited, and you've got on this red dress and these high heels and you're looking hot. There you go, you know, walk in and this person says, look at you, you look so good. And this one says, look at you, you look so good. And oh my gosh, and there's somebody who says, oh, my sister has that dress. You should see her in it. And you can't think about anything else. You can't wait to get home and put on your PJs and complain to whoever's anywhere around that, like, how dare she do that? You're like, I hate her. Right? Because that's all we focus on is the negative, the mistake, the failure. Instead of all those other people, the 8 or 10 people who said how good we look, it's just that one who said something negative. That's the way we view failures in our own lives. Just like that. We focus on it and we let it take us down. But not if we expect it. So I want to tell you a little story about my dad. Ron, I don't know how much time we have here because, okay. My father, serial entrepreneurship runs in my family. Some of y'all were born into it. Some of y'all are the first one in your family that's owned your own business and that's out there trying to make it happen. My dad was from extremely South Alabama, back in the days of the Depression. And you talk about depressing, South Alabama in the Depression was really, really bad. I mean, my mother picked cotton as a young child. And still, you know, when she died, she had scars on her hands and all that from, 8, 10 years old, picking cotton. They couldn't go to school every year because the money was too tight, that all the children had to get out and work the farms in order to eat. This is how it was. My mother moved away when she was 15 to make money, ran a diner, and sent it back home for her parents and the rest of the children. I mean, tough, tough times. So there was my dad, raised by a single mother, wore government-issued overalls. That's the way he was brought up. Lots of shame. And so in the 5th grade, where he had stayed out of school this year and worked this year and stayed out of school 2 years and went back and this sort of thing. And he was like 15 in the 5th grade. So he got into a fight with the principal and broke a chair over the principal's head. I mean, in this day and time, he'd be in jail, right? But this is the way it was. So he was kicked out of school. He was expelled. Failure. So then what he did, he joined, he went to work at the local sawmill, 15 years old. Sawing a board, cut off these 4 fingers on his right hand. My grandmother rushed out to the scene, took him to the doctor, had him sewn back on. They were deformed his whole life. So they would not bend. And they were really, really thin. It was real bad, real sad. But, he'd try to hold something and his hand was like this. So he ran away and joined the circus. He did a snake act. And then he joined a troupe that would go to movie theaters. And it was his job to close down the theater. Because in that day and time, they would have the movie and then they would have some sort of show after the movie. So this traveling troupe would do the show, whatever it was. Maybe it was singing and dancing and who knows. But Dad's job, he had a pet snake. And his job was to come out and have the snake around his neck and act like he was drunk and yelling and screaming and go up on the platform and take the snake and slip it off his neck and then shut off the house lights. And he'd scream, "Where's the snake?" And so And so everybody ran out the front door. I mean, that's what my dad did for a living. I mean, this is a true story. Do we want to call that a success or a failure? I'm not sure. That's right. So then he met my mother. So that was a success, let me tell you, because she was the stuff. She was a fine woman. So he met her, they fell in love, got married. Success. Dad then started building race cars and bought a garage and built these race cars and raced them. They were funny cars. Y'all know what funny cars are? No. Real dangerous. I can't explain it to you because I'm a girl. I don't know anything about it either, but I'm sure some girls do. But they're real dangerous, they tell me. And so I remember being 2 or 3 years old and being in the stands in Montgomery, Alabama, and my dad racing in this green car and it flipping 3 times. And my mother screaming and standing up, and next thing I know, I'm sitting on the front steps of a hospital, and mother then comes and gets me and takes me in, and there are these curtains, and he was in a ward in a hospital. And my mother was so angry with him. And I heard her say, if you ever race again, I'm taking these kids and I'm leaving you. Failure. He didn't race again. He then became a golf pro. He started playing golf. I was about 6 years old when he started playing golf. Remember his fingers? Here was his grip. He still, to this day, holds the club championship in Dothan, Alabama, for shooting a 29 on 9 holes. He was great. He was a phenomenon. Success, even in spite of what he had been through. He went on to own this business and own that business. He took this thing that he had done and he had an idea, and then he took that thing. He went on to own boats and cars and yachts and airplanes. 5th grade education. Broke a chair over the principal's back. Success. So it doesn't matter what you come from. You can do anything. You can do anything. You can be anything. Educate yourself. Prepare yourself. Expect some failure. But you want to be a serial entrepreneur? You can do it. So we need to plan for it. We need to have in business an exit strategy. Who knows what that is? Right. An exit strategy is where in your business plan, which you're preparing, in your business plan, you plan for failure. When this ship goes down, how do I get out from under it? You know, it's a maritime idiom that the captain goes down with the ship. So I want to tell you a story about my first failure. So I had owned the restaurant and sold it. I had owned the restaurant and sold it. So I took the money and I moved to Florida, and I found out that in Florida that there are all these tourist things that you buy. So, you know, you go down to Sarasota or to Panama City Beach or wherever you go in Florida. You go down there and there are t-shirts, right? It's got this alligator on it and it says Sarasota, Florida, right? Anybody got any of those type things? And so I started selling those things to beach stores. So then I went from that to, you know what? I can do even better than that. I thought, I can have my own line. So I started a line of children's clothing in the surf industry, and I sold it to beach stores. And so I made these cute little things that the front of the t-shirt, I'll use the alligator, that it had an alligator's front, and then the kid turned around and it had the alligator's butt on the back, you know? So I did cows, and I did flamingos, and I did all these things that would appeal to children and to their mother. And And then we did what was called a name drop. So I went to beach stores all over Florida, the whole coast, all the way. I did it. I set up the accounts. I created the stuff. I opened a company. I hired artists. I hired screen print people. I bought equipment. I then started a cut and sew operation where we started, I would buy the fabric and I would have fabrics made in China to match these designs so that the little shorts, we have the alligator shorts, the same little guy that was on the shirt would be on the pants. The same little fish that was on the shirt would be on the pants. And so we just, one thing after another, just growing it, evolving it quickly, as fast as I could to try to make it big and try to make big money. And so during this time, I lived in Florida. You have tornadoes in Oklahoma. What do you have in Florida? Hurricanes. Yeah. So October 4th, 1994, a hurricane was coming. It got bigger and bigger. I had just a month before took in the back part of the building, another 5,000 square feet. I spent $40,000 on another machine to screen print it faster. The cut and sew operation in the front, I bought all these sewing machines. The table that the fabric was on would start here and go to about him this way. Out here, about to here. The fabric would be rolled out. It was that wide and that long until it was this high. That's how much we were doing in business. So you lay patterns on top of all that. You have what's called a knife, about like this. It has a stand under it and put it in, and you cut out the patterns. This big thing. You got this many of this leg, this many. Same amount, right? You get the picture. We were turned into a big operation. I had 22 reps all over the coast, from Washington all the way down, California, all the way around Texas, all the way up the other coast, New England. I had reps in Guam, in Saipan, in the Caribbean, all over the place. Then I was taking in snow ski, so I would have big winter business too. So going into Colorado, going into, you name it, growing, busting. We were running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, screen printing, cutting, sewing, screen printing. Hurricane came through. I had not been serving the Lord for 15 years. I knew better. I was mad with God. Anybody ever been mad with God? Yeah. I was mad with God. That doesn't work. Like Dr. Phil says, how's that working for you? Yeah, right? You can't win to fight the big boy. So I knew what I had to do. I had to leave town and take my son, but I went to the business. I knew enough, and I'm like, Lord, protect all this stuff. Lord, all these fabrics, all this stuff, all this, couple of $1 million worth of gradu I've got all over the place in here. Protect it. And I went to South Alabama to my parents' house. As soon as it was over, I was one of the first ones back in town. I went back a day or two before they said you could go to town. I just went back anyway. And I drove, when I got into Destin, Florida, which is where I was, where I lived, where my factory was, refrigerators on the side of the road, insulation from houses, roof stuff everywhere. The roads were covered in sand, that where the beach had come all the way up, the waves had come all the way up. I was just like, dear Lord, just knowing it was going to be gone, right? The factory. I pulled up to it and it was like, oh! The whole side was ripped off. like a dollhouse. It was just open. I parked the car, got out, walked in there. Nothing was hurt.
Wow.
Nothing
Hallelujah.
was hurt.
Praise the Lord.
However, yeah, that's what I was saying too. The road washed out between Destin and Fort Walton Beach. And so Destin was this big. Fort Walton Beach is where the town is. Destin's on the water. You can't go south, right? So this is where everybody lived. The road washed out. It took 6 months to get a road put back in. My employees couldn't get to work. All those little ladies who would cut and sew, all that stuff, the lady who did all the cutting and the patterns, never saw her again. The guys who were in the back doing the screen print on that $40,000 machine, no employees. The only employees I had 19 employees. Now I had 4 employees, just the ones who lived in Destin. Orders canceling right and left and right. No way to pay anything. I had spent all my reserves. I didn't have any money left. I was counting on the come, as they say, right? That means what's to come, betting on what's to come, you know? And so it didn't come. My whole world fell apart. Everything I had done till then worked. My whole world fell apart. It took a while for me to get it. And I kept borrowing money to try to survive. I'd put ads in the paper and I'd hire people and I'd train them, and it took about 6 months to get people trained. Meanwhile, all these orders canceled. FEMA was in town, Federal Emergency Management Association, loaning money. By this time I had borrowed so much money, they wouldn't loan me any money. They said, you'll never be able to pay it back. We can't help you. I lost so much weight. I worked 110 hours a week to try to keep from losing everything. But it was futile. I lost it all. I lost it all. There it was. Finally, this guy said to me, I'm telling you, I was a nervous wreck. Finally, this guy said to me, Sylvia, sometimes when the hole gets so big, the only answer is to lay down the shovel. I was like, oh God, that's the first thing that's made sense. And so I did, and I closed the doors. And I walked away. To go bankrupt in a corporation in Florida cost about $20,000. If I'd had $20,000, who needs to go bankrupt? So there it was. I just closed the doors and I just let it implode. And it knocked the wind out of me. It took everything I could do to keep going emotionally, to keep living. Bill collectors calling, saying, you're a terrible person. You didn't pay your bills. You owe us money. You didn't. It's like, I don't have money to give my son for lunch. And this is what you're doing. I mean, it was unbelievable what it did to me emotionally. I wanted to quit. I wanted to die. When I finally got over it, and I said, okay, I know what I'll do. Guess what I did? I sold real estate. I had sold real estate when I was in my 20s. So about 2 years later, when I went back to work selling real estate. From day one, I had people walk in the door. I was putting my stuff in a desk. People walk in the door. I was the only one in the office. And they said, we just closed on a 1031 tax-free exchange, if y'all know what that is. We have $300,000 in cash and we need to buy something real quick. I was like, 5 days later, I had a contract. 11 days later, I had a closing and $10,000. I stayed there with that company for 90 days and I left and I opened my own company. I opened Destin Real Estate Company, which I later sold because the name was so incredible. And then I opened another real estate company. One year, I had 72 closings by myself. By myself. So when God closes a door, sometimes He opens a gate. The next time I lost everything was, so I had all this money, I'm making all this money, I buy all this real estate, I have partners that they want to buy real estate with me, we use their money, I leverage it, use their money, my credit, 12 properties in my name, their money, my credit, ironclad agreement drawn up by an attorney that their money, I suffer no repercussions. They pulled out. They left me holding the bag. My credit. Now I got 12 mortgages to get rid of. Here I am again. Lost everything again. Unbelievable. Let me tell you how much it affected me emotionally the second time. Not at all. I was like, okay, yeah, all right, well, what are you going to do? I can't fix this. This is bigger than me. So I just said, okay, Lord, well, what are we going to do now, right? So I became a financial advisor again. I had done that when I was in my early 20s. And so I got all those licenses and all that. That was 2007 when I got my financial. What happened to the stock market in 2007? Expect failure. Plan for it. Plan for it. You're going to have some. So now here I am, and I've moved to Oklahoma City. I'm still a financial advisor. I started my own small company. It's a little boutique company. I just sell Christian companies to Christian people. That's what I do. It's a small little company. I'm still a real estate broker in Florida. I've kept my license. I'm now a real estate broker in Oklahoma. So I could just go broker. I didn't have to go agent, So I'm selling commercial real estate. Selling and leasing commercial real estate here. Now, of all things that you would never believe, with my life story, I am so busy, I can barely get anything. I told them I didn't take a shower till 5 o'clock today, because I wouldn't have done it then, except I have to be here, and y'all don't want to see me, with my hair not combed and in my pajamas. So, I'm so busy, and it's so good. I'm in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. I met a guy on an airplane about 6 months before I moved here. Sat next to him, commercial real estate broker. I came here and moved here to be with my son and my grandchildren. Was like, well, I need to work while I'm here. My son needed me, so I moved here. I need to work while I'm here. I called him up, how's real estate in Oklahoma? End up going to work with him. And it just, and here's what he says. In 40 years, he's been doing this commercial real estate in Oklahoma City for 40 years. He says, I have never had business in my 40 years like I had from the time you came to work for me. Now, what you think that is? That's the Lord opening a gate because of failure. So what have I learned this time, right? No partners, no agreements, no deals, no putting my credit at risk for somebody else, even though there's an ironclad agreement. What have I learned? Take it slow in business. Grow slowly. Be sure you don't spend your reserves and bet on what's going to come. You've always got to be in a good position financially I've learned so many things for it. But the main thing I wanted to share with you guys tonight is failure won't kill you, but you're going to have some.
You're gonna have blood pressure.
What, dear?
Blood pressure.
Blood pressure?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's right. So, anybody have any questions? I want you to, when you fail, I want you to fail forward.
First of all,
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes,
What are you, hopefully I didn't miss it, but what are you doing now?
I'm selling and leasing commercial real estate here in Oklahoma City, and I'm a financial advisor, and I'm an ordained minister, and I have a book.
Oh, yeah, I want to ask you about the book. Do you have copies of that here?
I have copies in my house. 'Cause I told Ron, can I bring books? And then I forgot to bring them. So
How much are they? How can we get a copy?
they're $20. You can get on Amazon,
Okay.
or you can get a Kindle version on Amazon, or you can order them through the website, dreaminterpretationtoolkit.com.
That's the title of the book as well, Dream Interpretation Toolbook.
Dream Interpretation Toolkit.
Toolkit.
Yeah, it's a scriptural way to interpret your dreams. I studied it for 20 years. Who else? Questions? Comments? Yes?
Do you feel like you get better at failing as life goes on?
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
an effective way to
Absolutely.
fail, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I failed when I went to China really bad too. I mean, the last day I was there, I was kind of lucky I got home. But you can, I feel like you learn more from your failures, right? So do you feel like that second big boom when you said it didn't affect you emotionally, that you've kind of got this philosophy that you don't think about anymore, about like what you even count as failure anymore? I mean,
Right, because you have to learn, you have to learn to fail. You have to learn that it's not a character flaw. It's not a way, you have to introspect. What did I do wrong? What can I learn from this? But this is how it works. I saw my dad fail in business. I saw my dad succeed in business. So I hope that when you all fail, that you'll remember that I failed and it was really hard and it almost took me out. I'm not kidding you. It almost took me out the first time because I felt so badly about myself that I could make such a mess. But now it's like, hey, I'm just a person, just doing the best I can, and I didn't know these things. So now I know. And maybe there's something next time or this time that if I fail again, it's like, Lord, come on, do I have to fail again? I mean, I want to finish well, when at the end of the chapter, I want to be able to look up and go, whew. All right. So, serial entrepreneur. Just 1 second, dear. Yes.
Oh, thank you. I really relate to what you're saying. I thought about it a little bit. I had bankruptcy in '87. I had a software contracting company. I was the 4th contractor down from the prime contractor.
Yes.
There was a lawsuit from the government. Everybody got a percentage. And I was underinsured. I'm looking at you, underinsured. I thought insurance was a thing. You get insurance like a hat, right? Some dudes wear a hat under a hat. Insurance is in layers, and it burned through the one layer I had, and it just ate my lunch. And I filed for bankruptcy when I was 21 years old.
Oh my.
I felt bad enough about it to where I was working, but I was just being a guy. I was no longer being a leader. I was no longer going out and hustling new contracts. Wasn't making anything. I was just doing what somebody else wanted me to do.
Yes.
And I actually had to go to a little bit of therapy, like a group, business group session.
Yeah.
And I learned in that session, something blew my mind. Most countries don't allow bankruptcy, so people just jump off bridges, right?
Right.
Countries that
This is what happens. Yes.
in Europe, they allow you to have one, and after that, you can never own a business. In some countries, you can't even have a professional license.
Wow.
Again.
Wow.
So America, what's unique about America? We can blow it and then make it. And so I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's good to throw away things, but it's like saying, oh yeah, there's more than one story in my life. F. Scott Fitzgerald said, there's no second acts in American life. He was dead wrong. Dead wrong.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I totally agree. And there's one thing about the Lord. He's got plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, you know, Z1, Z2, Z3. I mean, he doesn't quit. And so we shouldn't quit. Right? That's good. Yes.
So closely coupled with that, I think looking around, you and I may be the older people.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, y'all talk about old people. Let me, what? I'm sorry, what?
Experience counts for everything in failure.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I chose to party and flunked out with a 1.7 GPA my first year of college, I'm fortunate to live in a country that allows me to go back to college and graduate with honors.
Yes, that's great.
When I choose to take a job and my talking back gets the better of me in my early 20s more than once and tell people where they can go, you know what? There's so much to learn from your experience.
Yes.
That, to your question, failure gets easier because it's no longer failure after a while. It's just another day.
Yeah.
Right? Some days are good, some days are bad. Some things you try turn out the way you like, and some of them turn out better than you thought. And some of them are like, crap, what was I thinking there? So, you know, and that's true of business, of relationships, of,
Yeah.
you know, everything you do.
Yeah.
So, to me, you just get up every day and live the way you most want to live today. The rest takes care of itself.
Well, I agree. We want to try real hard. I'm not, and I know you're not either. We're not by any stretch of the imagination saying we don't want to try.
No.
You know, but it's just that if again, one of the most valuable things I ever heard in my life at that time of great despair and stress was, sometimes if the hole gets too big, you have to lay down the shovel. Like, wow. I mean, I ended up $260,000 upside down and no business to pay it back.
That could dampen your enthusiasm.
Absolutely. Yes, Jennifer.
Well, what I was thinking when you were talking about your business in Destin, Florida, and
Yeah.
you had all this stuff, I was like, well, where did she get the money for it?
For which one? Which business?
The
factory?
Yeah.
The factory?
Yeah.
That's a cute question. I don't mean that smart. It's a real cute question. So I owned a house in Alabama where when I owned the restaurants and I sold the restaurants, I had some money from selling the restaurants. But I owned this house in South Alabama. So when I opened the factory, I went to my mother, who had always loaned me money to do whatever, and I would pay her back. And then I'd borrow it again and do something else, and I'd pay her back. I mean, that's just the way it worked for me. When I opened the first restaurant, I borrowed money from Mother and got it going and paid her back. So the name of my line of children's clothing was Mama's Money. So when it failed, I just signed the deed. Here, Mother. This is all I got left. Take this and sell the house and get yourself paid back. So that's what she did. Mama's Money. She was so cute. She was like, oh, Sylvia. She was something, yes.
So what business that you have not done yet that you think you'd be interested in getting into?
Oh my gosh.
You should always have an answer. You should always all have an answer to that question at all times.
Yeah.
You should have it in your mind.
Well, I'm kind of old. I've already done a bunch of it.
I said once, not should. I said once. What would appeal to you?
Yeah. Oh, well, actually, I do have something. I have, and I came to Oklahoma City to be with my son and my grandchildren, to help them out, and Lord knows.
mama's money.
I mean, my son was raised in the restaurants. And so he would go up to the window and he would say, Rhonda, I want free shrimps, you know? And so he's still saying, Mama, I want free shrimps, you know? I mean, it's just a constant thing. Mom, will you make me some chicken and rice? Mom, will you make some chicken cacciatorios? And so now he's engaged, and so she's calling me, Mom, will you make some chicken and rice? Mom. It's true. So anyway, see, our rabbit trailed. So where was I? I have an answer, I remember. And so I came here to be with him, but I came here to do a business that I've not done yet. And it's a ministry business. I have the name, I have the mission, I've been working on this since the year 2000. I was actually, this goes pretty deep spiritually, but I actually was in prayer and I fasted for 40 days, only eating certain things for 40 days. What do you want me to do with my life in the year 2000? Before I'm done, what do you want me to do? So after 40 days, I woke up that morning at 6 o'clock and I saw a blueprint just right in front of me. I know this sounds kind of crazy, and I know y'all probably watch Joy, whatever her name is on The View. No, whatever that crazy woman's name is on The View that maybe some of y'all love. Yeah, and that she says, you know, Mike Pence is mentally ill because he hears the Lord's voice. And so, you know, maybe that's what, you know, so that's what she'd say about me too. But anyway, but first I tell her, but so back to where I was. So wherever I was, blueprints. Thank you. See, I love it when somebody listens. So I saw this blueprint, and it was a coffee shop, and it had computers, and it had some stuff for sale, and it had all kinds of stuff in there. Like there was a room where children were being read Bible stories, and I was like, what am I seeing, you know? And I knew that was it. And so over the years, it's become this thing where, okay, my first restaurant, I named after my grandmother. Y'all are gonna love this. My first restaurant was called Miss Maddie's Tea Room. And it was in a 110-year-old house, had 22-foot ceilings. It was originally one room, and they added on and they added on and added on. And so I turned this thing into a restaurant. And I made the tables out of old Singer sewing machine stands, those black metal things that you pump, you know. And I got, every one of the tables was one of those, and I made tabletops. I had them made for it, old antique chairs and all this. It was the coolest place ever. And we had great food, and it was just a blessing. And so anyway, I sold it. But my grandmother's name was Maddie. And Maddie was a preacher. Now, can you imagine that in my family? But Maddie was a preacher. And so then here I am. I end up sort of following in her footsteps a little bit. But so I'm going to name this thing Maddie's Coffee Company. It's just in my heart. And so to do this, but I want to do numerous coffee stores. And the money is not for me. The money is to make these resource centers for indigent people and for the homeless and all, that they can come there and they can be discipled, they can be taught. We got places that feed them, we got places that clothe them, we got places that house them, but I want to teach them. I want to give them what I've got in here and what I've got in here. So that's what I want to do.
I hear you.
Thank you. How's our time, Ron?
We're ready to.
A few more questions, we're done? One more question, Mark?
What kind of commercial real estate do you do?
What What kind of? I lease and sell commercial real estate. I'm responsible for, if y'all have seen that center that's being built on Western and Memorial on the northeast corner that's under construction. So I'm the agent for that.
So are you like the 1031s, triple N's, or multi-property, or mixture of everything?
Triple net leases.
Triple N leases.
Yeah. And then I have some other property already under contract. I have under contract, aside from the things that I leased, I have millions of dollars of property under contract. Because I'm just so blessed. I'm just so blessed. But who knows, it may not any of it close, and I may come knock on your door and ask you for, peanut butter sandwich. So, all right, guys.
All right, guys.
Thank y'all.
Another round of applause. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, so some announcements. So we're going to go across the street over to Joey's Pizzeria that is going to open late just for us. So pizza, and tea, coffee, beer, whatever you're into, water. Welcome to Parenthood. It's on the meetup. Who's speaking next month? I don't know. On the meetup. So, any other announcements? Okay. All right, guys, we'll stand up. We got a few more minutes to kind of mingle out of here and network, and we'll clear that conversation. Meeting after meeting is what we call it. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. That was fun. Thank you.
Let me get a picture with you. Hey, Jonathan.
Okay, thank you.
Can I take a picture real quick?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.